Thank you.
Is Leia still on the Zoom?
What?
Is Leia still on the Zoom? I don't know if it's muted too.
No, I can't see.
She is on the Zoom.
I don't know. Okay, what time are we dancing tonight? I'm so down for this.
Okay. One of the things which I wanted to tell you about is this sheet that I gave out. And that is that starting from the year Tavshin Mem Beis, which is 5742, 1982. Remember we said that in 1980, in Tishrei of 1980, that's when the Rebbe began to intensify the awareness and the focus on Mashiach in a way like never before. That's when the Rebbe introduced the idea that everything has been finished. What Hashem is waiting for now is that we ask for Mashiach. And that's when they began with the song, Ad Mosai, we want Mashiach now. And the Simcha started to become very much focused on the subject of Mashiach. And every year that went by, the focus and the intensity became progressively stronger. But something that happened the next year, a year and a half later, Tavshin Mem Beis, 5742, what happened was that the Rebbe said, again, you see in this chart, you see three things. The year in Hebrew is Tavshin Mem Beis, which is 5742. And the Rebbe said it has an acronym. You can read it like this: Tehei Shnas Bias Mashiach. This should be the day of the coming of Mashiach. Okay, it's a nice acronym. What we understood from that is that year, Tavshin Mem Beis, is a year that's specifically and very much conducive for the coming of Mashiach. And that's why it's even in the acronym of the name of a year. In Torah, everything is precise. Everything is very, very specific and truth. So the fact that the year is called Tavshin Mem Beis means something. And that's what the Rebbe explained, that's what it means. However, there's a story behind it. And I know the story from someone who was related to the story happened. So actually, I have a brother-in-law, and the story is with his grandfather. So I know the story firsthand, and I'll just tell you the general story. His grandfather's name was Chaim Yeshua Shemesh. He's not a Chabad Chassid. And when he was a young man, he took upon himself to help a family that got locked up in jail because they owed money to the government. And he took upon himself to collect the money to get them out of jail. And unfortunately, those days, this was something that happened and very common, especially with Jews, didn't pay their rent. They got put into jail, and he decided that he would help these people. So one time, he tried all that he can to get the money together. He wanted to get it as early as possible because it was pretty dangerous to be there, and he didn't succeed. So he went to the home of a certain tzaddik that lived in his town. He was the great-grandson of a very famous Rebbe called Reb Chaim of Sons. And he told him what happened. And he said, what could I do? I can't get the money together. So the Rebbe said to him, you know what? Purim is coming. And I'll give you a suggestion. Get dressed up as if you're a Rebbe yourself. Purim, you can do anything. And I will give you certain items that actually belong to a real great tzaddik, to Reb Chaim of Sons, which was his great-grandfather. Would you give him the gartel, the belt, and he would give him the walking stick and the shtreimel. And he said to him, these are very precious things to me, but I'm giving it to you because of the great mitzvah of freeing somebody who's held captive. And then he said, what should you do with this? You should publicize that on Purim, you're going to give people brachas. And with these items, your brachas will have a power. Now we knew this is a Rebbe that doesn't crack jokes. It's just doing something like a trick. Obviously, it's something real, and he publicized it, and people took him very seriously. And they came to his house, they gave money, and he gave them brachas. And at the end of the day of Purim, he had all the money he needed to get this guy out of jail. Very excited. Came back to the Rebbe, and he told him, I have all the money, and thank you so much. So then the Rebbe said to him, he was very excited to hear the news that the person's out of jail. And he said, just like you merited to give me good news that this person's out of jail, I bless you, you should be merited to announce the coming of Moshiach. May it be so. I'm telling this to just a guy out there. You should be merited to announce the coming of Moshiach. Okay, years went by. This person went through the war, went to one of these camps. Unfortunately, he went to Siberia. When he was in Siberia, he met someone else, another Hasidic Jew, and they would learn together. And this person had a lot of, was apparently not a very spiritual person, and they strengthened each other while they were there. And then one day, the person was much older than him. He said to him, listen, he feels that his days are coming. And I want you to know that I have a box of Torah books. I don't want them to get lost. I'm sure you're younger, you're going to survive this camp, and you'll be okay. So when you go out, take the books with you, and you'll know what to do with it. And literally a few days later, he passed away, and the books were with him. And it took 5 years, but after 5 years, he left the camp. He came to the United States. He lived in a city which is called Square Town. You know where that is? Upstate New York, near Muncie. And he has a son and a daughter that both, even though he's a square chassid, they both married into the Lubavitch family. So one of his grandchildren is my brother-in-law, and I hear the story from him. So, of course, lived his life, rebuilt his life, and had family, children, grandchildren. One day, when he was getting a little bit older, he said, I have this box with this form. I never did anything with it. What should I do? And why he decided to do what he did, I don't know, because he was a chassid of another Rebbe, or maybe because he knew how much the Rebbe was very passionate about Sfarim and libraries. So he told his son, take the Sfarim and give the box to the Rebbe as a gift. He gave the box to the Rebbe as a gift. In the Sfarim, there were books there that talk a lot about Mashiach. One of those books, he saw that in the book it says, Tov Shin Mem Beis stands for Tehei Shnat B'yat Mashiach. This should be the year Mashiach's coming. He said, when you give it to the Rebbe, point this out to him. And that was it. A short while later, the Rebbe came out with this announcement. And the Rebbe said, someone made me aware that Tov Shin Mem Beis is Tehei Shnat B'yat Mashiach. The interesting thing is that it wasn't just that. From that point on, you look at my list there, I'll soon go over it. Every year, the Rebbe explained how the year had an acronym that related to Mashiach. Anyway, the story continues a little bit more. And that is that he passed away in 1988. 1952, I'm mixing the Hebrew and the English, sorry, 1992, he had a granddaughter who took care of him when he was not well. And one day when he was talking to her, she said, you're supposed to be announcing Mashiach's coming. So he said to her, I will announce it. I'll let you know when he's coming. That's what he said to her, which seems to be just like, nice, friendly way of speaking. But in 1992, he came to this granddaughter in a dream. And he said he was all dressed in Shabbos clothes, and holiday clothing. And she said to him in the dream, Zaidi, why are you dressed so festive? So he said, I came to tell you that Mashiach has already come, and you should also wear festive clothes because the time of Geulah, it has arrived. That's what he told her. This is the same time that the Rebbe was saying, Year of Moshiach, the time of redemption has arrived. So it's an interesting story of a person that merited to be the shliach, to bring that savior to the Rebbe. That's the Rebbe's announcement, the Eishnas B'yis Mashiach. And again, from that point on, let's look at the list for a second. The next year was a Gimel. So the Rebbe said, this should be the year of Geulah through Mashiach. The next one was Shnei Zdat Divrei Mashiach, which means this should be the year we should hear the words of Mashiach. The next one was a Mem, a Hey. This should be the year of Melech HaMashiach. And you notice Tavshim Mav is blank, which is something very surprising. Before and after, every single year, the Rebbe made an association with Mashiach, and that year the Rebbe skipped. I guarantee you that if you think hard enough, you can find something with the Vav, no question. So there must be a reason which is beyond our understanding why the Rebbe skipped it. But the one with the Zion, the Rebbe said, Tei Zu Shnas Mashiach, Ches was Tei Shnas Cherus Mashiach. We should have freedom through Mashiach. We should have good through Mashiach. Then started the years with the Nun. Should be a year of miracles. The next one was a year that we'll see wonders. We'll see wonders in everything. We'll see big wonders. We'll see amazing wonders. So basically, from that year and on, the Rebbe began to say that the association with Mashiach is so clear that it's actually in the name of the year. We know that the name expresses the essence of something. So this is something which I never spoke about. I thought it should be made aware of. Now, after that, the Rebbe no longer said things. Hasidim continued on their own to give different acronyms for the years that were with Samach, Ayin, now we're into Pei. But this is already something which we're sort of following. But these that you see here were all given by the Rebbe himself. Okay. Here's another thing about Moshiach, which we didn't cover yet. We don't have that many classes left, so we're going to chaperein. So throughout the years, whenever they ever spoke about Mashiach, the emphasis was, why is it so important? Why can't we just wait till it happens, and then when Mashiach is here, we'll go be dancing in the streets? Wait till it happens completely. We're in Mesholayim, we have the Beis Hamikdash, there are no doubts, there are no two opinions, just be sort of much smoother. So we said this more than once. There are two reasons why the Rebbe keeps telling us, not two reasons. Chas v'shalom. There are a lot of reasons. I just mentioned a certain tzaddik, his name is Reb Chaim of Tzanz. This tzaddik once said that when I ask my chassidim to do something, I have 300 reasons for it, usually. I guess it means there's a reason, and there's a deeper reason, and a deeper reason, and a deeper reason. So here too, there's no question that there are many layers of depth to what the Rebbe is doing, but there's mainly, first of all, the Rebbe is giving us good news. If somebody's, God forbid, sick, or somebody's in jail, and you found out that soon they're going to recover, or that soon they're going out of jail, and you can give them the news, you'd run to give them the news as soon as you can. Why should they suffer another day? Even though it didn't happen yet, but just to know that it's going to happen soon. That's number one. Number two, the reason why we need to know that Mashiach is coming soon is because we need to be more prepared. The more we are prepared, the more we'll benefit from the experience of Mashiach's coming. I would compare it to going to a class. You're going to go to a class, and let's say the most brilliant person in the world is going to be giving a lecture on a certain subject, and not everybody can go in and listen, but you're chosen, you're one of the people who can go in and listen. In order to benefit from it, you have to be familiar with the subject. You would read about it before, read whatever you can, get as much information. What if you don't? What if you know nothing about the subject? You go into the lecture, your body is sitting in the room, your head is in the room, and your ears are open, you hear words, but you have no clue what's going on. You almost walk out the same way you walked in. So the more you study and the more you know, the more you're able to absorb when this person speaks. Mashiach is going to be a time where godliness will be revealed. But the more we're prepared, meaning the more refined we are, the more we'll be able to absorb and benefit from this experience. So therefore, by letting us know that Mashiach is coming, we step on the gas and doing more, whatever we can, to be more prepared and more ready, that when Mashiach comes, we're going to be able to truly benefit. And the third reason, or maybe this will be the first reason, is that we have the power to make it happen sooner than soon. So by telling us that it's about to happen, but I can make it happen one day earlier, that's enough of a reason why to publicize it. Because if you have millions of Jews around the world and so many billions of non-Jews around the world, and everybody or anybody would just do something to make it happen sooner, all together we can make it happen a day sooner, a week sooner, a month sooner. And by the way, even an hour sooner, it's worth it. So that's the other reason. So in terms of making it happen sooner, throughout the years, the Rebbe came up with different directives. What is it that hastens the coming of Mashiach? And I think most of them, they're very well known. One thing is tzedakah helps Mashiach come sooner. That's the Gemara. It's all based on Gemara. Avas Yisrael, any act of love and kindness from one Jew to another, one human being to another, is something which helps and brings Mashiach closer. And we know that later the Rebbe spoke about learning about Mashiach brings Mashiach closer. Having emunah in Mashiach, that in itself brings Mashiach closer. One year, this was 1988, the Rebbe spoke about bringing Mashiach through Simcha. Simcha in general is a positive thing. Simcha in general is very much promoted in Torah and in Chassidus, in Torah in general, but particularly in Chassidus. But here they were speaking about bringing Mashiach through Simcha. So I'm not going to read this because it's a few pages, it's in English. I'm assuming that everybody sitting here knows English, read English. So you can always read this yourself. But let me give you the thrust of the Sikha. What is the association between Simcha and Mashiach? First of all, it's interesting, just the spelling alone shows it. How do you spell Mashiach? Mem, Shin. The main letters of the word is Mem, Shin, and Ches. What are the main letters of the word Simcha? Mem, Shin, and Ches. The same three letters. rearranged differently. Here it's Sameach and here it's Mashiach, but it's the same letters. And we know that, said this many times, that the letters of the Aleph Beis is the source of life for everything in the world. The name of everything is the channel through which it gets life. So the name, which is the name of Mashiach, and the name of the word, which is the word for Simcha, is the same, that clearly shows that the two things are associated with each other. This is the whole principle behind gematria, and all these things have to do with similarities between words, the letters, the numbers, and so on. Another thing is, there's a pasuk that says when Mashiach comes, there'll be Simcha, great joy. Actually, the only time there could be true, complete joy is when Mashiach comes. Why? Very simple. Right now, when we're in Galus, it's not possible for a person to have total, complete Simcha. Why? Because if everything is going good, Begashmias, but sometimes things are not going good, Beruchnias. If everything is going good, Beruchnias, it's not always going good, Begashmias. And if everything is going good with health, it might not be so good financially. And if it's good financially, it's not so good in health. And if it's good in both, it might not be so good in something else. Basically, there's so many areas of life, both in the physical sense, and so many areas of life in the spiritual sense. Where do you have a person that's perfectly happy? There's nothing that I'm not happy about. I haven't met that person yet. Hypothetically speaking, if you find a person that is Mr. or Mrs. Perfect, everything is exactly the way they want it. They have money and they have health, and they have children, and they have a home, they have everything they're looking for, Begashmias, and they have everything they're looking for, Beruchnias, and there's absolutely no basis at all for anything which is unhappy. Okay, what's doing with other people? How's your brother? How's your sister? How's your mother? How's your father? How are your cousins? How are your friends? How are other people? Other people are suffering. It's impossible for a person to be totally besimcha when there's such pain and suffering going on in the world. Yeah.
Are we supposed to achieve that, or are we supposed to like be so like aren't we? Isn't there like a level that to reach? Like I know I don't think that I'm obviously there yet myself, but like that level of like, being so upset to be separate from Hashem, like all we want is Hashem, like that level of like not even about Moshiach, but just through Moshiach we will be like feel like just connected with Hashem. But that idea of just being happy with everything in Golas, like that doesn't make sense a little bit.
No, I just finished saying that it can be until Mashiach comes.
Right.
That was going to be the end of my
So that
sentence.
person who's like happy with everything is kind of missing something.
I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. So the reality, the person can't be totally, there's no way there could be total simcha in a world of galus,
Right.
because it's a world of pain and suffering. And if I'm not having it, someone else is. Plus, it's almost impossible that someone could say there's no area which is painful or hurting or something or other. So basically, true simcha could only be once Mashiach comes. There's a pasuk where it says that Hashem says, "I will erase or remove all tears from all faces." In other words, when Mashiach comes, there will be no tears. There might be tears of joy, but no tears of sorrow or pain or suffering, because there'll be nothing to be crying about. Everything will be good the way it's supposed to be. So in a sense, true simcha in the most complete way is only when Mashiach comes. Today, when we have a simcha, it's also because we're not paying attention to certain things, right? We try to focus on the good things in life, the happy things in life, but there are things that if I would focus about them, of course, it would bring me down. So that's another reason why Mashiach and simcha is connected, because Mashiach is the only time only when Mashiach comes can there be pure, complete simcha. There's a third thing about the association between Mashiach and Simcha. One of the famous quotes regarding Simcha is that Simcha pirates gather. Anyone recognize that phrase? Simcha breaks barriers, all barriers. In other words, when people are besimcha, all barriers, in a sense, fall. Which means the example that's given, for example, even a king who has people locked up in prison because he's angry at them. This king, when he's marrying off his son or marrying off his daughter and he's very happy, he pardons prisoners. What's the connection? Because he wants everybody to be happy. He does things that he doesn't do ordinarily because he's besimcha. In other words, when a person is happy, you go beyond a lot of the barriers that stand in your way and they stop you from doing certain things and being a certain way. When you're happy, those barriers are gone. We find sometimes people who are very quiet, they're not the type to talk a lot. But when there's a simcha and they're very happy, got engaged, or some other simcha, they're talking and talking and talking and became speakers all of a sudden. What happened was they have a barrier, a certain shyness. But now that they're besimcha, they rise above those barriers. People who don't get along with others, they're having people that they don't talk to each other, they're upset. Yet when there's a simcha, very often, a true simcha, the barriers fall and let's just forget about everything, let everything just melt. And of course, on a personal level, every one of us, we have our barriers, things that we find that are sort of limiting. I can't do this, I don't feel I can do that. When a person's besimcha, you're able to break through those barriers. So that's one of the greatest things about simcha. And one of the reasons why simcha is so much emphasized in Chassidus, because when a person is not happy, the opposite happens. When you're not besimcha, then any little thing gets in your way and everything is challenging and everything is hard and everything is a burden. When you're besimcha, you just go right over it. In reference to Mashiach, it says the same thing. There's a pasuk, Yale haperetz lefanenu. Peretz means the one who breaks barriers. That's the Hebrew word for breaking through something. It's called peretz. In fact, the ancestor of Mashiach, which tribe does Mashiach come from? Yehuda. Which son of Yehuda does Mashiach come from? So if you remember the story in Chumash Bereishis, there were two twins that were born. One was called Zarach and one was called Peretz. And actually Zarach was born first, but Peretz pushed ahead and went ahead of him. And he said, Lama paratz olecha paretz. Why did you sort of go out of line? You're supposed to go second, not first. So actually the birth of this person, who is the ancestor, the origin and the beginning of the one who's supposed to become a Mashiach, is defined by this character trait of paretz, breaking through barriers, not following limited, narrow direction, but just to break through those barriers. And that's why he's related to the name Peretz. And the reason for this is because that's what's going to happen when Mashiach comes. The barriers of the world that we see today won't exist. There's no more hunger, no more wars, and no more hatred, no more jealousy, no more competition. All the things that are plaguing the world today won't be there then. So that means Mashiach will be breaking barriers. And besides other miracles that will take place, like Tchias HaMesim and things like that. So the barriers of nature will be moved out of the way, or they'll be sort of, will be able to be, Mashiach will override all those barriers, go over it. So after all this, that is such a close connection between Mashiach and Simcha, the Rebbe said, this should be the approach now to bring Mashiach through Simcha. In other words, increase in joy, and to increase in Simcha with the intention that this should bring Mashiach. And the Rebbe said, the truth that years ago, from the beginning of Baal Shem Tov, and really beginning from Kabbalah, there's always been an emphasis on Simcha. But the difference is, before, the emphasis was the mitzvah, and the point was, do the mitzvah with Simcha. In other words, you're davening with Simcha. You're putting on tefillin, do it with Simcha. You're benching licht for Shabbos and Yontiv, make the bracha on the candles with Simcha. You're doing Lulav and Esrog with Simcha. Everything should be with Simcha. So it's basically, Simcha is something that enhances the mitzvah. So it's a means to an end. It's not the end in itself. But now the Rebbe says, I'm talking about being the Simcha as an end in itself, that through Simcha we should bring Mashiach. Not Simcha is there to enhance another mitzvah, But the focus on Simcha would be that by being the Simcha, to bring Mashiach. Then the Rebbe asked an interesting question. If it's really so powerful, how come it wasn't done before? Such a good idea. Why didn't anyone think of it before? So the Rebbe said, because Golus is so bitter and so dark and so difficult that it didn't really register that this could be something practical, that Yidden should have such pure simcha just to bring Mashiach, because everyone is so broken from the difficulty and the darkness of Golus. So then the next question was, okay, then how can we do it now? Still not as dark in some ways as it used to be. Baruch Hashem, we live in free countries. We're not being persecuted the way they were. But generally speaking, it's still Golus. So the Rebbe answered, but being that we're coming to the end of the road, and now Mashiach has to come, it must be that Hashem gives us extra strength, that we should be able to be b'simcha in spite of all the darkness that's going on. But technically, how is it possible? So the answer that Rebbe gave was, the answer is this: if you know that Mashiach is coming, and you believe it with absolute emunah, that his coming is very soon, then that can give you the strength, even during the time of Golus, to be b'simcha for Mashiach. Like the analogy I gave before. Like I said, imagine a person is, God forbid, very sick, and they're suffering, they're in pain. But the doctors, unfortunately, don't have any solution. And then someone would come along, I'm just giving this my homemade mushal, someone would come along and say, this disease, in Europe, they have a medicine for this, that when people take this medication, within 3 days, they're totally healed. But for some reason or other, we can't use it here in America. And someone is coming now from Europe and they're bringing this pill, will have it soon. And once he takes it in 3 days, he'll be healed and there's no side effect whatsoever. Would that bring any simcha to the family or to the person himself? Or you would say, what's the point? But I'm suffering. Yes, he's suffering, but the knowledge that this medicine is coming and the knowledge that after that, within 3 days, it's over, would give him tremendous simcha. So the Rebbe is saying, how could a person motivate themselves to be b'simcha now? Pure simcha is the knowledge and the faith and the confidence that Mashiach's coming is imminent. And of course, throughout the years, the Rebbe asked us and told us and directed us to look at different things happening in the world. And the next class we give, which will be after Shavuos, I'll go into it, bring you certain articles about different things going on. If you look at the world with the right glasses, you can see amazing things happening in the world. At the same time that we see dark things happening, but there are a lot of amazing things happening which are unprecedented. And they're all an expression of and a manifestation of the fact that we're so close to Mashiach. So like everything else, it depends where I'm looking, where my eyes are focused. If I'm focused on the darkness of Golus, it's very hard to be with Simcha. If I'm focused on where do I see in the world, where do I see there's such a thing as Geulah coming, I can see it. So this was sort of an interesting thing, because the Rebbe sort of launched this almost as one of the campaigns. A new way to bring Mashiach is through Simcha, focusing on pure Simcha. It's not something which the Rebbe sort of continued or went back and made reference to the Sikha, but of course, it's something which the Rebbe said once and it still exists. And we know the Rebbe's opinion that even on a personal level, if a person's chas v'shalom in a situation, which is a galuzdik situation, if you are b'simcha, if you're thinking positive and you have trust in Hashem that this situation will no longer be, that's what's going to happen, it'll no longer be. So I would suggest, I know you have a lot of homework, but if you could put this into your homework schedule to read the Sikha itself, you'll see there's much more here than what I said. about the union of how Simcha is one of the most powerful things that brings Mashiach. Like even Ad Mosai, if you think of it, Ad Mosai means you're saying, Hashem, how long will be in Golus? Really, when we say Ad Mosai, people should be shouting at the top of their lungs and crying. Like when you say, how long can this go on for? You're supposed to be upset. Instead, we're singing. If you think of it, it's a little bit of a paradox. You're saying Ad Mosai, how long will we suffer? And we're singing at the same time. So the answer is, yes, we're saying to Hashem, we want the Geulah to come, we want the Golus to end. And we're singing because we have absolute confidence and trust in Hashem that very soon will bring Moshiach. And I remember once by Fabrengen, after the Rebbe spoke very strongly about do everything you can, someone got up by the Fabrengen on his own, an older chassid, and he said that we're doing everything we can, we're talking, we're begging, we're screaming, we're crying to Hashem for Mashiach. Rebbe smiled, it was Shabbos. And he said, ask a Rebbe if you're allowed to cry on Shabbos. So he took the Rebbe seriously, it was a Rebbe sitting right there, and he said, no. Even God forbid, the worst happens, you're not allowed to mourn and cry on Shabbos. You know, the Rebbe was very, very connected to the Frierdiker Rebbe. We all know that. You listen to Rebbe's Sichas, everything is connected to the previous Rebbe. And when it actually happened, it happened on the Shabbos that he passed away. It was Shabbos morning, 8 o'clock. And the Rebbe was totally contained the whole Shabbos. After Shabbos was over, the Rebbe broke down crying nonstop. So what happened on Shabbos? Shabbos you're not allowed to, according to Torah, so it didn't happen. So nothing should ever happen that should cause a person to cry. But obviously, there's two kinds of crying. One is where I just can't help it. It's happening. You can't call that an Avera. The other is where a person sort of makes a point to get himself to cry. That you're not allowed to do. So basically, the Rebbe always emphasized that. You know, I heard a song recently. Someone played a song for me from a different group, also a song about Moshiach coming. And I'm listening to it. And the words of the songs are in Yiddish, and the words even mean, be lively, Moshiach is coming. But unfortunately, the song is so much with such broken heart. When is this going to be over? And when is it all? And it's talking about Moshiach is coming, but the theme and the spirit of the song is all about how broken we are from the Golus. And of course, we have this in many of our prayers. But the Rebbe is saying now is the time that the way to bring Mashiach is only through Simcha. And the Simcha comes from the absolute trust in Hashem and the confidence that Mashiach is coming imminently. Okay. I mentioned in the other class that the Rebbe insisted that when people greet each other before Shavuos, they should give each other a bracha. Of course, you say you should have a good yontif, but specifically the bracha that you should have Kabbalah Satira, the Simcha of B'pnimius, which means you should receive the Torah with Simcha of B'pnimius, and when you see the Torah, it should be internalized, your receiving of the Torah. So again, Yontif is definitely an obligation to be the Simcha. Every Yontif we're obligated to be the Simcha. But here we're talking about something specifically related to the Moshiach. Anyway, in the afternoon class, we'll continue what we started yesterday about the Baal Shem Tov. And hopefully be all ready. You're very welcome.
When you give your class about how we don't say that, how tzaddikim are still like living, I had a question then, but I just didn't ask it, and then I just remembered. My question is, why do we say, like, when you were just talking about the Frierdiker Rebbe, you said he passed away on Shabbos morning. But no one uses that terminology. They just say like Gimel Thomas. So why is it different for our Rebbe than all the other two?
Oh, it's not one word. It's not one word. It's the truth is it applies to all the tzaddikim.
Right.
And applies specifically to the Rebbes, and even more specifically to the previous Rebbe. Because that's where we got this language from. That's how the Rebbe spoke about the previous Rebbe. Nevertheless, from the Rebbe's talks themselves, we see that there are levels, even in this itself. What does it mean, levels? Remember, we said that the definition of alive means, according to Torah, that the neshama is still connected to the body.
Right.
So, in terms of how much the neshama is still connected to the body, what do you mean by how much? It could be 100%, it could be 99%. For example, when a person is sleeping, the neshama is no longer connected to the body, the same as when you're awake, but you're still alive. So when we say that a tzaddik is connected, the neshama is connected to the body even after his passing, there are also degrees of how connected it is. So one of the differences between the previous generations and even the Rebbe's generation compared to the previous generation, by the previous generation, with all the language of the Rebbe using that Rebbe is here and he's with us, the Rebbe accepted leadership. How did he do that? Did the Rebbe get up and speak while the Frierdiker Rebbe was the Rebbe? Of course not. Not only that, the Rebbe says in many places that on Yud that was the end of the 6th generation, the beginning of the 7th generation. Regarding himself, the Rebbe said the 7th generation, which is the Rebbe's generation, this will continue until Moshiach comes into the world. So that means that by the Rebbe, this very thing that we speak about all tzaddikim, and even more by the Frierdiker Rebbe, by the Rebbe, even to a greater degree. That's why the Rebbe gave clear instructions. Nobody should take any place his place for the Rebbe's leadership, as the Rebbe still continues. How is that? It must mean that by the Rebbe, the connection between Neshama and Guf is even more stronger than before. That the truth is, even for the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rebbe very seldom use such words. It always also say about Hilula, use different words. You would say Yud Shvat instead of.
Right.
The reason why I say it because I think people don't understand what I'm talking about, so I have no choice.
Right.
But in essence, yes, when spoke about what the Rebbe would speak about the past, and say before Yud Shvat or after Yud Shvat. And we say before Gimel Tammuz.
Right. Also, I've never been here, obviously, in Gimel Tammuz before, and this year I also won't be there. So I'm just wondering what Crown Heights looks like on that day.
Depends
Like,
where you look.
what?
Depends where you look.
So I'm saying, like, are people dancing in the street? Or is it like inside 770, there's like Farbrengen? Or
Basically, a lot of Miftzayim and a lot of Farbrengen.
okay.
Whether the atmosphere is like heavy and sad,
Right.
or the atmosphere is Simcha, that depends where you look.
But the Rebbe
These are the
said
two
that it should
groups.
be the Simcha, obviously, right?
Right, I mean, the Rebbe told us that now's the time for Simcha, and it happened right in the beginning when the Rebbe had the stroke. That month, the Rebbe told everyone that it's 2 months of Adar, and therefore it should be double the amount of Simcha. And a group of people decided, if that's the case, let's have dancing with music at night. That's when it started. And the Rebbe gave us a proof. And the Rebbe had the stroke. So some people said,
So he said, how can we be dancing?
how can we dance it? Another group said, didn't the Rebbe always tell people who had a situation to move the Simcha? So I'm good with time. So that's when the two groups started to group. They wrote to the Rebbe after the stroke, and the Rebbe responded. They asked the Rebbe would answer, they said yes or no, and the Rebbe said yes. In fact, I was more than once heard from Dr. Rosen spoke publicly that there were a few words the Rebbe did pronounce. One was amen, sometimes yes, and one of the words that he pronounced was shira v'zimra.
Oh, wow.
Which is a song from Simcha. So basically, then it was the same question. And same with Gimel Tammuz. People that are b'simcha, not chas v'shalom b'simcha,
Right.
they're b'simcha because what do you want about Gimel Tammuz? You don't want to, normally a psychologist, a therapist would say, listen, you have to come to terms. It's over. And we are saying we're not coming to the we want to reverse the situation. Reverse you crazy. If you believe in Moshiach, you can reverse the situation. That's what it's saying.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
What's up? I'm fighting my university. Okay. Thanks. Why? Because they said they were gonna figure something out for years, so they never did. Yeah, I know, but you're not.
It's a good idea to read.
Oh. Yeah, it's in the back of my Simcha book. I made copies of it.
And the back of your own.
You make the copies.
I know, but I don't read everything. I read everything that I.
Yes. Where's my good one? I don't have something right yet. Monday. You're doing something. Monday, the work.